Hello, we're live for the first time ever. No, for the first time in 6 years.
6 years.
Hoosier collects is the problem.
Yes.
Or Hoosier.
Was.
Or the
I
Canadian.
was working overnight for 4 weeks, and we decided to do another 2 weeks off.
Yeah, I hurt my Wii foot, and then it was pretty rough. You don't realize. I mean, you do realize how much you use your foot, right? I mean, I'm not going to be an idiot, so you don't realize how much you use your foot until you don't use it. But it sucks not having the ability to use your foot.
Oh yeah.
All right. So on our first day back, we decided to do a little bit of getting prepared for Kenobi.
Mm-hmm.
So who are we discussing today?
Not Kenobi.
Not Kenobi. That's
we're not. This would be a part. This would be one of 4-part episode if we're talking about Kenobi.
We're going over a good villain for Star Wars and for the Kenobi show, the Grand Inquisitor.
The Grand Inquisitor. There is a video, and it's basically the Grand Inquisitor on all of his appearances on the Rebels TV show. If you guys get a chance, anybody who's interested in him, watch that. If I can remember to put a link in the description, I will, but I didn't use any of the clips. But I watched it to kind of get prepared for this. And then I watched it and I realized, this is not going to tell me anything because it was literally just clips. But he is such a good villain. Like, he was kind of a badass a little bit. Like, he was pretty scary. They tried to make him pretty scary.
The voice alone is what helped carries that character too.
All right, so let's just kick it off. Here we go. The Grand Inquisitor was a Padawan male and former Jedi Temple guard that turned to the dark side. Unfortunately, his name was lost to history. He only goes by the title of Grand Inquisitor, the highest rank you could achieve in the Inquisitorius. The Inquisitors were tasked to hunt down any surviving Jedi and eliminate them. The Grand Inquisitor reported directly to Darth Vader. He was dispatched by Vader in order to find Force sensitives all throughout the galaxy. During this time, he hunted a rebel cell that included Jedi survivor Kanan Jarrus and his Padawan Ezra Bridger. During his battle with Kanan Jarrus, he would lose and then allow himself to die instead of facing the wrath of Darth Vader. However, even after death, Darth Vader was not finished with him. He trapped his spirit to serve as a guardian over an abandoned Jedi outpost. Later, Luke Skywalker would meet him there, and they would fight, and he would lose. And yet Darth Vader would still not release his spirit. Tonight, we discuss one of the most interesting characters in Star Wars, the Grand Inquisitor. Join us.
Yeah. So the cool thing about it was his Force spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was the Force that was basically putting him in that temple guard.
Yeah.
After he died, but it gave us a look at what he was like before he actually became an Inquisitor, when he was a Jedi.
Yeah.
And I did read an article that said that Pablo Hidalgo and the other Yahoo were discussing that he definitely was one of the prison guards or whatever, temple guards that arrested her, and definitely one of the ones that was around. And they were like, I guess being silly, they were trying to decide which one of the 4. Like, it's the one on the right, no, it's the one on the left, no, it's the one on the front. So he was definitely one of them. They just never picked
during
randomly.
a trial.
Yeah, which one it was. Yeah. All right, so after the Jedi were, I guess we could have done this as the Inquisitorium or whatever they call that. I guess we could have done about overall. But after the Jedi were ousted, the Emperor decided he needed to do something, and apparently the Emperor is the one that turned him to the dark side or whatever, recruited him, and he answered to Darth Vader, and they were sent out to hunt down all the Jedi, kills them dead, and then any Force sensitive children they were, to hunt down and bring in, so that they could have the
Next
ability
generation.
to keep going.
Yeah.
Throw them in the backpack. Bring them back to.
I will say though, like at the end when he died, he threw himself Terminator 2 style into the flaming pit. Did give a thumbs up though. He just died. Because he was worried about what Vader was going to do. Well, like he screwed up in Rebels like 18 times. So he let him get away. So I don't know if Vader had a meeting right before this last one. It's like, bitch, if you don't catch him this time, don't come back. Because he never like he got to keep his job.
You had your 2 warnings. We suspended you from job.
Yeah, you've had your write-ups. You had your verbal warning. We had a coaching session. This is bad.
I do like that. There's that scene. I don't know which episode it is, but basically the generals or whatever had stuffed up something, but Grand Inquisitor had already failed a few times, and Tarkin really he didn't care that much, but he cared, and he basically said, you know, don't stuff up again, man. But he allowed the Grand Inquisitor to, you know, lop those guys' heads off, even though they'd screwed up once.
I don't know the story about Tarkin, and I know they've already done one book, but I kind of hope at some point they're going to explain that. They're going to explain why a guy standing there with a beaming light of death and the ability to force choke you and throw your ass out the airlock, he tell me wants to. And Tarkin just didn't care. He'd be like, shut up, sit down. And they're like, yeah, okay. It's like, it makes me believe that Tarkin knew damn good and well who the Emperor was and what he was capable of, and that he could just show up and just electrify everybody. And he knew that he had his back no matter what. I don't know if he had pictures of him with small children. I don't know what he had, but he had the most unnecessary confidence I've ever seen. He did not care that these crazy guys who could use the Force and use lightsabers were like around. He'd just be like, shut up, you screwed up, sit down, don't do it again. And I was just like, where do you get off having that kind of that you can just like, like even with Vader, he was like, Vader, knock it off and sit down. As you wish.
Balls made out of Star Destroyer steel.
It was very impressive. It was very impressive indeed.
Didn't we talk about his origin? And he's
pretty
good at fighting in that origin story.
Later into the woods and.
But I still think you only have that kind of guts if you knew that the Emperor had your back 100%. And if you got touched, that they could kill you, but they're definitely going to die afterwards. Like you only have that kind of. All right, so I believe this is the first time. I take it back. I did take a clip from that show. I just realized it was a little bit of that first one and this one, or that video. So I will put it in the description if I remember, hopefully. This is like the first time we saw him, I believe, in Rebels.
Yes, Lord Vader. And so it will be done. No, it doesn't seem complicated. I am the Inquisitor. Welcome. Interesting. It seems you trained with Jedi Master Depa Billaba. The temple records are quite complete. In close quarter fighting, Bilaba's emphasis was always on Form 3, which you favor to a ridiculous degree.
All right, so I probably should break that down. I just want to say once again, Heavenly Father there at the Disney headquarters, I do not own any of this. I just present it for your magnificence. I do not pretend to own any of this. I should have broke that down into 2 clips, but what I wanted to show was how awesome he was. The voice acting in the Rebels, for the most part, it's great. And the fact that one of the things that I learned doing more background on him was that he was obsessed with knowledge, kind of like Anakin a little bit. And he wanted to get in to read the books, and they wouldn't let him for whatever reason. Maybe because of Anoke, or how do you say her name?
Jocasta knew.
Yeah, Jocasta knew.
She didn't like the look of his teeth, maybe.
Yeah, maybe she didn't like the way he looked. He had that villain look about him. He just missing, was missing some other things. And she wouldn't let him do it. And so I think was that the comic book or whatever, he's literally reading when she catches him.
Yeah, and throwing the books around. Well, we'll go over that. It's such a good part.
I wanted to show that, like, in that scene, he's like, look, I know who you are because I've read all the holocrons. I know exactly what form this person had and that person had, and I could tell who trained you based on your form. That's kind of badass. Like, that's kind of cool that he was like,
really well versed, right?
Yeah, like, and he was like, all the records are pretty complete. I know exactly who trained you.
Like General Grievous, really.
Yeah.
You have to imagine as a temple guard, like, your job is you're kind of just hanging around the temple all day, right? You're not going out of the temple to do missions. You might be going out to, like, defend like a high ranking, like a high council member or something when he goes to the bar or whatever. But otherwise he's probably at the temple the whole time. Like, yeah, he's probably just always around the books, and he just like in so much downtime you have problems.
Yeah, so I kind of look at
around.
it like, I think why probably the Emperor was able to turn him easily. I don't know if it was easily, but able to turn him.
He
Because he probably just used he probably just used the same tact. You know, he'd have to come up with a different style. He just used the same tact he did Anakin's. Like,
he gave him
there's all this knowledge.
library card.
Yeah. Listen, there's all this knowledge I didn't want you to have, baby. I got the keys to the library. I'll hand you the library card. You don't have to pay the dues. All you got to do is jump on my team.
No late fees for you.
No, you take out whatever you want to take out. You can peruse as you wish.
He probably just had to stand there like they do at Buckingham Palace and not move.
Yeah, that's what he did. He just stood there.
I guess the final thing I would say is it seemed like I'm kind of confused, I guess, and maybe I'm hoping that the Kenobi show will kind of round this out or give us a little more context, because in the comics it seems like Vader did most of the training, because it just cut your damn arm off if you're not paying attention, and he doesn't care. But it seems like later on, whenever he dies or whatever, the other ones are very loyal to him, to the Grand Inquisitor, and they want to know what happened to him. And so, like, if he's not training him, he's not doing anything. I kind of just want to know, like, what is he doing? Is he there to, after Vader cuts off an arm, is he there to pat him on the back and be like, he gets angry sometimes, it'll be all right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wonder what his role was, when Vader wasn't there.
He's a supervisor when the manager's not around. He's all buddy with the other.
He's that one that has to fire you, but always pulls the card. Well, I don't want to do it, but corporate says I got to. I'm with you, buddy. I'm one of you. I'm just a middleman here. So I would like to see that part. That being said, obviously, the big fat white elephant in the room, I mean, fat-faced elephant in the room is this.
So
the sad part is, in that clip, he's so alarming, but then you forget, like, the end when they show all the other Inquisitors around that table, that looks freaking amazing. Like, that looks really cool. But he's so, I meant to put a clip of the his other species who's always hangs out with the Emperor, just to show that this is what he's supposed to or could look like. Instead, we got the Campbell's baby face over here. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Yeah, there you go. That's what we're talking about right there. I'll put the big screen up.
The thing is, you on top of that, like, looking at how he looks like in Kenobi, like from the trailer and such, obviously the really rounded head thing jumps out to you right away. But like, not having any of the lines. The big thing is I noticed the teeth. When he was talking, his teeth were just like straight, squared, normal teeth, not all pointed inwards. And
they're pretty jacked looking in the
another thing. So obviously, there you go. Like, literally normal looking teeth, and like not really like everything else. So
that looks like his son. That looks like his adolescent son. Is like, where's my dad? What did you guys do with my dad? Like, that's what that looks like to me.
Inquisitor. Me.
Holy cow. It's celebrity time. It's Barry Comics. What's happening, man?
Look out.
Oh. One other thing, that picture you show from the trailer where he's just standing there, I completely forgot to acknowledge was that, like, obviously, so Rebel is very stylistic, but he's a very thin and like lanky dude.
Oh,
but in that, he looks really like buff and like stocky.
Oh, he's something.
He's probably training with McGregor.
PTSDs or something. I don't know.
And Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
So getting all buff together. So what I'm trying to wrap my head around is, what connection did the Grand Inquisitor and Kenobi have? Because they never met in any of the TV shows, episodes, or
he was probably his fanboy from watching all those holograms.
Because all through Rebels he was on Tatooine, right? He was supposedly there.
I'm a little bit curious too, because I don't understand what they have to do with each other. Because if they're in this show, they have to be in this show for a reason. So unless you're telling two separate shows at the same time, because if what you're telling me is they have reports of a Jedi, he's what am I hearing?
Yeah, it's like a reverb coming back.
If you have reports of a Jedi, then he should be really easy to find, right? Because it's like he might be doing stuff on certain planets. He looks like Kenobi. He has a beard because he hasn't shaved anything. He hasn't changed any look from the movies. He didn't bleach blonde his hair. He didn't shave his head or nothing. He's the same dude. And if they're there because they're getting reports of a Jedi and they're there looking for him, and if there's any kind of passing by, they have to know that there's certain Jedi that you need to look out for. Like, I know they think Kenobi's dead. That's fine. But at the same time, it's like, hey, we have reports because how hard is it to get an eyewitness? According to eyewitnesses, he's got red hair, he's got a beard, he's a Jedi. I'm going down the checklist here. How many could that possibly be? And if one of them might be a name Kenobi attached, even if you think he's dead, don't you go, okay, that's high alert time. And what planet was it on? And Tatooine was one of them. Oh shit, we're putting it together now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's gonna be weird to see how they're gonna do that. Because I thought Rebels,
he's out there in the parking lot.
Look at that.
Yeah, I thought Rebels really create a lot of problems because of those kind of things. Like, if you're gonna get that famous, then people know the Jedi are still around. People need to be. We should have heard about them. There should be some story about Ezra running around if he got that famous. Like, literally, at the end of Rebels, the most famous admiral they have went personally to go get him, and then they got lost together. Whatever happened with Rebels, and it's like that's problematic because how the hell are you going to tell the story and no one ever mentions this? I mean, although you could say they didn't want to mention it because they didn't want people becoming friendly, but still, it's a weird. It could be a weird problem that they're going to end up having telling these stories again.
Yeah,
that's kind of why I've always wished they would just go into the future or way far back, so they won't have these little messy situations they're having.
Well, we're gonna nitpick it.
So as far as the timeline goes, where is like Rebel story versus what Kenobi's being set?
Well, it has to be before Rebels. Before. So I would think it would have to be pretty quick after the fall. Like, it has to be within a few years, right?
It's, if I'm not mistaken, it's 10 years after because of Luke's age. If I remember correctly, Luke's age. The Grand Inquisitor is still around because he died at the end of season 1 of Rebels, which is very early into. Oh, one thing I remember when I was looking into the Grand Inquisitor, I thought was just funny is the entire first season he's there, not once is he called the Grand Inquisitor. He's only called Inquisitor.
Oh, that's true.
First time he's ever called Grand Inquisitor was on the DVD commentaries when Dave Filoni called him the Grand Inquisitor. And then in season 2, when they started doing callbacks to him and mentioning him, they called him the Grand Inquisitor, which I thought was really funny.
So hold on, we got a problem already here now because I just realized that he dies on Rebels,
season 1.
How long was Rebels timeline supposed to be? Do we know? Like, how long was Ezra and them together? Do we know how long it is? Because he's white hair old ass man in the final season of Rebels when he fights Darth Maul. He's an old ass man at that.
I would have thought like 4 or 5 years.
Well, we got problems then because I know that Tatooine double sun is hard on a man, but he's aged about 40 years in those like 14 years.
Because Ezra didn't age all that much.
Well, we got some problems then.
Yeah, here I'll pull it. I'll figure this out real quick.
That would be. I know there's like a meme, and I think I put it on my Discord where it's like how hard it is, how hard Tatooine life on Tatooine is, and they were showing the actors from like all the different shows now, because of course they're like pretty 20-year-olds, and then the timeline's almost supposed to be like 20 years later, and they're like 60 and all, whether they were older actors, and it's like, damn, how hard is Tatooine on people, man? They're aging by like 60 years in 10. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited for the character. I just realized that he died in Rebels. So that's a weird thing, man. That's a weird timeline. I don't know, because they had Kenobi being pretty old in that. That's gonna be weird.
All right.
Well, he's not going to die in Kenobi, is he?
Okay, 1 second.
Because I know there was a time jump in Rebels. I just don't know how long it was. Because I remember it bothered me because I thought Ezra had some pretty cool hair, and then they time jumped and he had like really short hair. And it was like,
I think it was the last season that was the biggest jump.
So, okay, I'm figuring this out here. This might be a problem. I think you might be onto something. Let me pull this up.
Kenneth Bird.
Okay, so Kenobi is set in 9 BBY, so 9 years before Battle of Yavin. The first episode of Rebels is set 5 BBY, so there's still about 4 years. 4 years between then, between the start of Rebels and that. And the first episode of Rebels is when the Inquisitor shows up. 2 BBY is the episode Twin Suns, when Maul fights Kenobi.
Right.
So there is only a 7-year gap between how he looks in that and how he looks at Kenobi.
Right.
So in 7 years, he goes from mop head, like mop head like me, and big thrown out beard, to completely grayed out.
Yeah.
Voice wizened down.
Almost like Alec Guinness, right?
More like Alec Guinness. Well, truly, it'd be like Alec Guinness because that's 2 BBY, right? So
yeah, I was about to say that is leading right into
the 1 BBY being New Hope. So yeah,
Smart, I'm gonna need some kind of canned explanation for this. I'm gonna need somebody to tell me that the 2 sons age you and they're 3 times.
We need to see people in Mos Eisley lathering sunscreen on, and Kenobi going, "I don't need that."
Sandblast.
Or like they do something weird, like he gets force lightning or something, and he like ages, like like sucking his life.
It could be interesting if they go like the sun like bleaches his hair out, right? But
Alec Guinness is like 80 years old.
That's the only one I know, but
he is old as shit.
You have to canonically. Okay, spec alert. Kenobi gets skin cancer.
What? What?
To me, what they should have done is they probably, because they know this, right? They're not stupid. They probably should have just made the actor now gray. Like they probably should have just had him like the gentleman
Mr.
gray.
Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, where he's like completely gray here. He's got patches or maybe even starting to have a gray beard. It's so that way, because I know that they're doing it a little bit, but it's not enough. It needs to be like full on side of your head's gray. And
now, how long after Revenge of the Sith is it?
So Revenge of the Sith. Here it's like Revenge of the Sith
was like 30, right?
19 BBY. Yeah, so it's 10 years later. 10 years later, he looks like this, and then 7 years after that, he looks like Guinness. So 17 years is in between.
Right.
I don't have access to the Google Drive. I just requested access. Whose is that?
Sorry?
I don't have access to the Google Drive.
You don't?
We request access.
What?
Who does that?
You're requesting access?
Yeah, it told me to request access
for episode 40.
Is that I got issues situation there?
No, because we made it.
I don't know. It says I need to request access. I never have it before, so I didn't look into that. Here, I'll show you what.
Oh no.
Who has access? You
have
access.
It says you all have access.
See, you need access.
Are you?
And then I requested access. So
it's a different address. It's a different.
No, it's the same one. No, it's the same one.
No, it's the Yahoo one that says it. That has access.
Oh, is that what? Why did it switch over to that?
That's a you thing.
That is not a me thing. That is a punk ass Gmail thing.
Well, me and Kachun can sputter off while you get the Yahoo.
I got it. It'll take 1 second.
But
all right. So anything else? Yeah, I'm already there.
Oh, okay. Well, I was gonna say, yeah, the Grand Inquisitor. I mean, it's interesting. like, so the role of his character, like, his history wise, there isn't much, and I wonder how much is going to be developed going into the show for him, because basically it's everything in Rebels we saw and what we're going to see with the comic. Well, basically one comic run, and yeah, and obviously we don't even know his name. We don't know his name at all.
He's doing the opposite of what's his name from Jabba the Hutt. He's doing the reverse. He takes the weight off between Kenobi and the Rebels series. So
Yeah.
he started off a bit chubby.
Oh, he lost. Oh, he probably fought Kenobi in this. Probably realized he lost really bad and had to whip himself into some shape.
Yeah, he had to go buff up, take some creatine or something, get it done.
Yeah. He's got to look more like a Grand Inquisitor.
All right, so I get that's it. Are you guys ready to see his what do you call it? His comic book. We're gonna have his first appearance in the comic book. Are we gonna have his first appearance in a comic book?
Oh yeah.
Spec is here. Get it here. This is where you make all the money. All right, let's do it.
Sadly, I don't have these.
Hello to Kenneth Bird in the chat too.
Bounty Hunters, episode 40, The Grand Inquisitor. There we go. Take it away.
So yeah, as it should be in Star Wars Kanan, issue 12, the final issue of that miniseries. He shows up in the end of it, his first appearance, stating his name, and yeah, full page spread for him. After that, we get him as his first cover appearance in issue 6 of Darth Vader, the second run, the one by Charles Soule. And he shows up in that series as that's the main run of him, especially with the first couple issues. And then he shows up near the end of the series for another little story arc. After that, you don't see him again all the way until the new run of Star Wars. Same again by Charles Soule. He shows up in a flashback, and then again as the ghost that fights Luke Skywalker, as we see. And then issue 25 is not out yet, but he's on the cover of the issue, and it's supposed to be a celebratory issue for Charles Soule's run on all of Star Wars so far. So talking about different characters and different stories. So the Grand Inquisitor is shown as one of them. So I will presume that will be issue. Will probably get his first solo story, if anything.
Oh, okay.
And then on the bottom there, we have the Bounty Hunter 17. There was a Lucasfilm 50th anniversary variant for that, for Rebels. So it has Thrawn and the Inquisitor on the cover. We talked about in the past. And then there's the list of TV episodes. So Rebels, he shows up in, the second episode. It was a two-parter. So they got melded into one sometimes. That was the first time he ever showed up. And he shows up basically throughout most of season 1, just random episodes. And then he makes his death on Fire Across the Galaxy, episode 15. And then he reappears in season 2, episode 18, as that temple guard ghost. Right. And then obviously Obi-Wan Kenobi, we'll see him again. Not sure how much we'll see him in Kenobi. It could be a bait and switch. He shows up maybe for one episode. That is one thing to think about. So yeah, that's
just is there to send off his Inquisitors.
That would be really funny, honestly. That's all it is. But yeah, so that's his first appearance there. He's talking to, funny enough, Ray Sloan, a new character from New Canon, becomes a bigger character. She becomes one of the Grand Admirals later on. But there's him there talking to her, looking more like himself than he does later on.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool cover.
And then yes, the covers of this run are amazing. But he shows up in issue 6 and he's in the Jedi Temple walking around. Darth Vader surprises him, thinks he's just some kind of a Jedi who showed up there. And they get into a fight.
A little too good of a fight, actually. He held his own pretty well.
That's the big book. Everyone's like after that more than the Kanan book. I guess because they consider it a cameo. I don't know.
Maybe, but at the same time, there's also some of the best action. He fights Vader there. He's testing him. Thinks he's actually winning the whole time, and Vader remarks in the top right there. You have nothing. I was simply just testing my suit because this is after he got his new suit and was only just repairing himself. So the Inquisitor, gets knocked down immediately after trying to do the old spinning technique. He basically goes and gets saved by the Emperor, and story arc continues from there as we'll go into it. But these are here all the covers to the issues he appears in Darth Vader. So the first 4 up there, the top 3 in the bottom left, are part of that one arc we'll see at the library and Jocasta Nu. And the bottom 2 issues there are the other story arc he appears in.
I have the top right.
I find it weird that the Emperor was kind of grooming him at the same time he had Darth Vader. Darth Vader has a very old school, regular, normal lightsaber, right? And he gave this guy and all of his little followers these new Spinaruski, which is completely ridiculous, but they're helicopter blades. I think it's kind of funny how Star Wars does that. It doesn't really explain it. It's like, we're giving them modern tech, and they can fly around like helicopters. Vader, you get that stick.
But he doesn't really do that as much as the others, if at all. I know he does a lot of his fighting with just the single sword or 2.
He usually kept the first one out as kind of like a duelist one, as like Dooku would almost, and usually pulled the second out as a way to surprise than anything.
Or intimidate.
Yeah, I think it's more of an intimidating thing. It seems like.
So this is a fun moment. So this is when he lined up with the
draw that. I feel like that's how like my kids would draw. Like they are so weirdly drawn right there. They're so stiff looking. That's hilarious.
That image is also blown up. Like it's much smaller into the page too, right?
Yeah. They look like those little worry dolls.
Yeah. So in that moment, basically, Vader's asking what the point is, and the Emperor explains to him who the Grand Inquisitor was, saying that he resented the Jedi and for not allowing him access to the secrets of the Order through the library and such, as we talked about, that was kept from him. And he saw that he was an option. He was a very easy person to exploit and use, and would be definitely very loyal to him.
So a few of those are going to be in the series.
Yeah, the ones there. I wonder how much, if we'll see all of them, or if we'll just be seeing, because we see
this guy for sure.
the one on the left of the Grand Inquisitor as well. We see the lady.
Yeah. So this
second sister.
Second.
Yeah, this one, and then is it either this one or this one? I don't remember.
Yeah. Tough to see. This is a fun moment. So basically, they go to the temple, and he's going to have the Grand Inquisitor go through the records to see if they can find information on other remaining Jedi. And Grand Inquisitor has waited his whole life for this moment, is what he says to Vader, to go through all the records. And this time, this is a great. So Jocasta Nu was a librarian of the Jedi, and she basically infiltrated the temple to get records of a bunch of the younglings and locations of different Force-sensitive people. And she's going to the library. She sees him down there, and she's like, "I'll ignore him." And then on her way out, she sees him again. It's like, "Don't do this. Don't pick a fight." And he's going through the books, his feet up on the table, everything she would hate. And he goes and just chucks one of the books, and that sends her right up.
Enough of that shit. I can't take no more.
And they have a good.
This is messed up story. This one.
And they have a good fight. Pretty fun. He actually beats her in the fight, and Darth Vader intervenes, and we'll and he goes on his way to do his own thing. Very good. Honestly, that's a very good run. It was a great series. Definitely one to talk about later on. And so this is issue 6 of Star Wars. This is when he reappears again. This is many years later after this happened. And this is when Luke's on the journey looking for records of the Jedi and going through different old temples. And he goes through one of the temples, which I can't remember. I presume this is the same temple that the one that Kanan goes to in Rebels with Ahsoka, right? If I remember correctly.
So. But
I
my
don't know.
understanding is, I think it's a High Republic temple.
It's a High
The
Republic.
official canon is it is an abandoned Jedi outpost, is what it says. That's all it says.
Yeah. Okay. And then so in this moment, so he comes across him. Luke talking to him. Grand Inquisitor says to him, I think
That
loads.
was a pretty mind-blowing moment, by the way.
Oh, shocked me too. It was such a good fight. And he says, so the Grand Inquisitor says to him, once I served the Jedi, I wield a lightsaber like the one you hold. Then I hunted Jedi in service of Vader and the Emperor. Now I serve them still and kill every seeker who follows the path Vader created to this place. I presume I always will. And then they get at it. Ultimately, Luke besting him in the fight.
Spoiler alert: Luke won.
We saw that the movies come out. This is a great scene. Vader showing up. I love the effect. You normally don't see, because Sith aren't really seen as having Force Ghost as an ability, or can do it. Only ever seen with Darth Malak, or Darth Bane. Sorry, Darth Bane was the only one we ever saw in canon, and it was also kind of like that fiery aspect to it. So Grand Inquisitor groveling at Vader, telling him, "You're but a tool shaped to serve my purposes. You will continue." And this is all basically saying this is your whole fate to your soul now. And then a line he gives there, I didn't realize at the time, and then when going back into Rebels, is the same line he says when he dies.
When he drops off, something's worse than death.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then these are so on the left there, that's issue 25 of Star Wars. So that's the one that's upcoming. That's gonna have multiple stories going on in it.
Sweet. Is that Poe beneath?
Yeah. So it's basically Charles Soule, his celebration of Charles Soule's time on Star Wars, because I think it's going to be wrapping up somewhat after that. But also I think it's like a celebratory issue, like a number, like a legacy number. But anyway, so he has different stories, and as you see the Grand Inquisitor there, I assume he's going to have a solo story or maybe something along Vader. And then, so here's something I found really interesting.
I don't even have an Inquisitor one. Oh, Lord.
So this is what I found interesting. So you see there, it says the Inquisitor because, again, he wasn't called the Grand Inquisitor until after the DVDs. And this is one of the only 2 action figures that were made for him. There was another one that was during the Force Awakens banner and all that with Kylo on it. But there was never a Black Series figure made for the Grand Inquisitor. This is basically the first one and the more important one of the 2, I guess, from what I can see. It's not pricey at all. You can get it pretty much normal priced.
Well, let's hope there's one in the works, because
I have to imagine
lines on his face.
I'll have to get one for Kenobi. If not, if they do Kenobi, is it gonna be a big rounded head, or are they gonna do like a black chrysanthemum mold where they fakes it all? They're just gonna take the regular Powin guy from episode 3 and just take his head and put it on to.
They'll probably CGI the lines in.
Maybe. This is an edit of what he should look like. That. What's his name put in?
Benny Hill.
What's his name put in? What's his name? That one guy that helps us.
Chris.
It's not important what his name is, obviously. All right. So that is the end of the Grand Inquisitor story. I think
Not too grand.
I think he's a pretty cool character. He's one of those characters that you kind of wish you knew more about, but at the same time, that kind of what makes him cool is that he came in hot, left hot, and that's it. That's all you need to know.
Mm-hmm. How would you feel about if they were to actually explain his backstory as a Jedi? I don't think I'd want to see it.
I don't think it's necessary. They probably will because they need material, but I don't think it's necessary. I think what it is what it is. Like, you want him to be a no name guard that wanted to know more information. The Jedi just wouldn't let him. Because if he ever did something noteworthy, then they probably would have let him read the books. But he was a no name who was mad that he was a no name and got bitter and became a bad guy. That's pretty normal.
They're going to have to explain the Inquisitors in general.
Yeah, they will have to do that, though. And I do find it interesting. Because here's the problem, right? Overall, they're Inquisitors. They should be famous. We have no mention of them anywhere in Star Wars. the original first 3 movies. They should be really famous. People should know about them. And instead, for a long time, Star Wars treated like all Force stuff, all lightsabers were myth, like it wasn't real. But people should have known these guys are running around, right? And then they just aren't around anymore. So what happened? Did they either all die, or did Vader assassinate them when there was no more use for them? You know what I mean? Like that's a pretty big question.
I only imagine they all died off by the time 4, and they had no other replacements.
Yeah, or they just thought they didn't need him anymore, so Vader called them into the office, told them their services were no longer required, and fired him, and then killed them all. Like, you just never know.
No 401ks for them.
There will be no severance packages for you people.
And was
just severed limbs.
I thought the Emperor was involved with creating them.
Yeah. He was directly involved
if they
stirring it up,
It seemed like they also kind of did away with looking for Force children too, because the first 3 movies, there's no mention of it. There's really no talk about it. And they didn't have these guys. So maybe he just thought they could be controlled for whatever reason. So maybe he just, I don't know. They'll have to explain that kind of stuff, because it's the problem that I'm saying, that you start running into problems when you start trying to fill out story.
As Star Wars is.
That's Star Wars.